Hello everybody, and welcome back to Certified Collectibles. This is another episode of First Appearance of the Week. This is Wednesday, October 18th, 2023. We'll be giving you all the first appearance in your comic shops today. Now this week we have a pretty light video for you guys. I think we only have 3 first appearances, 5 honorable mentions, so only 8 titles on all to go through, but there's definitely some books in there worth picking up for your collection. So let's go ahead and get started for the first appearance of the week, weekending October 20th, 2023. First up from DC Comics, Superman number 850. This features the first appearance of a female version of Brainiac. Now, like we always mention with these DC comics, whenever they introduce a new character, it really depends on how DC treats this character going forward as to how important the character is going to be in the future and how important these particular issues are going to be. DC has not really had a good track record in modern times of introducing new characters into these modern issues and making them relevant and making them favored among fans. So a lot of the characters they've introduced into these modern comics haven't really become all that popular, haven't really resonated all that well with fans, so they may not be all that big of a deal in the future. But, it really depends on how DC treats these characters. So there's no way to really know until the future comes around. With all that being said, this particular issue does feature the first appearance of a new character, a female version of Brainiac. So this one here may be worth picking up for a spec. Like we just mentioned, it really depends on how DC treats these characters going forward. So grab this one here for a spec if you can. If you can't, though, put it on your B-list and take a look at it later on. Next up from Marvel Comics, Crypt of Shadows number 1. This features the first appearance of the Bricklayer, a villain who faces off against Scarlet Witch. Now with Marvel Comics, we typically do recommend picking up the first appearance of new characters in any of these Marvel titles, because Marvel Disney is still churning out a ton of media, whether it's for the small screen or big screen. And you really don't know where any of these characters they're introducing in the comics may end up. If they are introduced into a TV show, streaming series, or a feature film, people do race back to the comics to try to find these first appearances. So in our opinion, these are typically always worth picking up for the cover price. So go ahead and grab this one here for your collection. And finally from Marvel Comics, Miles Morales SpiderMan number 11. This features the possible first appearance of what is solicited in issue number 12 as a terrifying new foe. Now, since this here is a possible first appearance, you do want to do a little bit more research on this before you pick it up. If it is the true first appearance and that is confirmed, this is one you definitely want to pick up and add to your collection. Any Spider-Man title, these are books you definitely want to own whenever there's a first appearance of a new character, or new superpower, or new costume. The Spider-Man franchise is probably the most heavily collected and most popular franchise for Marvel Comics, so you definitely don't want to miss out anytime there's a first appearance of a new character. Like I said, though, definitely do a little bit more research on this. Make sure this is the actual confirmed first appearance before you pick this up, because if it's not, and the first appearance is in issue number 12, that's the one you're going to want to own, not this one. So do a little bit more research on this. If this is definitely the first appearance, pick this one here up for your collection. And now for the honorable mentions. From IDW, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees number 1. A quaint storybook town of anthropomorphic animals is terrorized by a serial killer. Now, like we mentioned with these small press and indie publishers in the past, anytime these books are picked up an option for a small screen and big screen project, that's a huge price driver for these books. People do race back and try to find these first appearances or these premiere issues. So these are always great specs in our opinion, and IDW has had a lot of their titles picked up an option in the past, so there's definitely a track record there. And this story here sounds like it lends itself very well to a small screen or big screen project. So in our opinion, this is a great spec. Grab this one here if you can. If you can't, though, put it on your B-list, but definitely keep an eye on this one. Next up from Scout Comics, Beautiful Soldiers number 1. In search of the fifth element, the Beautiful Soldiers are the descendants of an alien race capable of great power over their own element: earth, air, fire, and water. Now, Scout Comics has had a lot of their titles picked up an option for small screen and big screen projects in the past, and there's been a lot of attention on their titles lately. So any of the Scout titles, these are typically good spec bets. For $3 or $4, you could be sitting on a huge winner here if these things get picked up and go somewhere. If they don't, you're out $3 or $4. In our opinion, the risk is definitely worth the reward on these. And this one here sounds like it lends itself very well to the screen. So in our opinion, this is a great spec bet. Grab it if you can. If you can't, though, put it on your B-list and take a look at it later on. Next up from Scout Comics, Bitesized Tales of Terror number 1. Now this here is an anthology of 3 horror stories. We put this here on the list because these anthology of horror stories, these have a huge fan base and a huge collector base in a secondary market. And this here is a Scout title. And like we just mentioned a moment ago, Scout has a track record of getting a lot of their titles picked up and option for small screen and big screen projects. So if any of the stories in this anthology get picked up, this is one you definitely want to own. And a lot of people don't really collect anthologies when they come out, especially horror anthologies. So there's always fewer of them on the market later on. Like we said, in our opinion, this is a great spec bet. Grab this one here if you can. If you can't, though, put it on your B-list and take a look at it later on. Next up from Archie Comics, Fear the Funhouse Toy Box of Terror number 1. Now this is another anthology of horror stories featuring dolls, robots, and puppets gone awry by the hand of a shadowy toy maker. Now, like we just mentioned a moment ago, anthologies, especially horror story anthologies, have become very popular, huge collector base and huge fan base for these in the secondary market. And this here is an Archie published title, so this one here we do think is probably a good one to pick up for your collection. It is a one-shot anthology of horror stories, so this one here is definitely speculative, but like I said, in our opinion, these are great specs. Grab this one here if you can. If you can't though, put it on your B-list and take a look at it later on. And finally from Dark Horse, subgenre number 1. A man is living two lives. One, a detective trying to solve a triple murder in a cyberpunk future, and when he falls asleep, a wandering adventurer in a barbaric fantasy land. Now, Dark Horse has had a lot of their titles picked up an option in the past for small screen and big screen projects, and this one here sounds like it lends itself very well to a TV show, streaming series, or feature film. So this one here, in our opinion, is another great spec bet. The story sounds very translatable to the screen, so grab this one here for a spec if you can. If you can't, though, put it on your B-list and take a look at it later on. So there you have the 8 titles we have for you guys this week. Short video, but there's definitely some books in there worth picking up for your collection. So please feel free to drop some comments in the comment section below. Thumbs up if you like this video. And as always, please remember to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you for joining us here at Certified Collectibles, and we'll see you again next time.